Okay, let's do this. Today we're talking about IFR holding procedures. All right, here is the paddle plan. We'll start with an introduction. We'll get into holding patterns, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. And then this week I'm planning on creating videos demonstrating how to do holding patterns. Okay. Oh, that's annoying. That should be silent. Cool. There it is. Okay, so who am I? My name is Monty. I'm a flight instructor, founded Emerald Squadron Aviation, and my passion is helping you earn your wings and become a pilot. So if you want to be a pilot, I'm your guy. So the objective of today's lesson is to develop knowledge of the elements related to holding patterns. One second. Okay, here are the elements we're going to cover. We'll cover the basics. We'll talk about holding instructions, navigational equipment, entry procedures, the recognition of arrival at the holding fix, timing, wind correction, DME in a holding pattern, and loss comm procedures. If nothing else, I want you to take away these key elements. Use the entry that makes the most sense, and we'll talk about what that means in a minute. Remember that standard turns are to the right. That is opposite to your typical traffic pattern where standard turns are to the left. So in IFR, your holding patterns are to the right. And anytime you are making a wind correction on a holding pattern, you want to triple the wind correction on the outbound leg. And again, we'll talk about why that makes sense here in a minute. Let's talk about the basics. What is a holding pattern and why do we care? Well, the holding pattern is basically a parking lot in the sky. It's a maneuver designed to keep an aircraft in a specified airspace while awaiting further ATC clearance. So if ATC is super busy, they'll be like, hey, hold over there until I have time for you, right? Standard turns are to the right, like we said, and this is what your holding procedure looks like. It's a racetrack shape kind of thing. There's the fix end, the holding side, the outbound leg, and the outbound end, and the holding and the inbound leg. And this is the holding side and the non-holding side. Now your airspeeds, up to 6,000 feet, you want to stay at or below 200 knots, and from 6,001 to 14,000 feet, it's 230 knots, but ATC may restrict you to 210 knots if they need you to. And then above 14,000, it's 265 knots. But again, ATC can restrict you if they need you to stay slow in the hold. Now, if there's a published hold and ATC is like, hey, hold at the published thing, then you just basically follow the chart. But they may also specify a fix, direction, the radial course bearing, airway, or route that they want you to hold on, the leg length in miles, the direction of the turns if they don't want you to do standard turns, and the time of your expected further clearance. Again, the purpose of this is to occupy you while they're busy. So they might say, go hold over there, hold north of this fix on the 360 radial for 4 miles and make left turns instead of right turns, and I will tell you what to do in 10 minutes, and that's kind of how it's going to run, right? Now, if you arrive at your clearance limit before receiving clearance beyond the fix, ATC expects you to maintain your last altitude and begin holding in accordance with the depicted hold pattern. Or if they tell you, a specific type of hold, they expect you to follow that until they give you further clearance, right? If you're unsure, in general, in aviation, always ask, right? It's better to ask and be sure than to be like, yeah, I totally know what I'm doing, and then fly into a mountain or, annoy ATC. Now let's draw the hold. There is the fix, there is the fix end, there's the outbound leg, the outbound end, the inbound leg. This is the holding side, and this is the non-holding side, right? And then there's the course as well. So if they say hold on the 090 radial from this VOR, that's the 090 radial, but we're heading inbound 270 on the inbound leg, and then 090 on the outbound leg. Okay. Now let's talk about entry procedures. You want to get down to your holding speed within 3 minutes of arriving at the fix. In general, especially in IFR, slow down, give yourself time to think. And there are 3 ways to enter the hold. There's the parallel entry, their teardrop entry, and the direct entry, right? So if we are, we'll draw them here in a minute. So when you go parallel, I'm going to draw a hold real quick. I'll draw this in red. when you go parallel, what you're planning on doing is coming in, hitting the fix, and then flying a route parallel to the inbound leg for a minute, and then turn towards the holding side, and then come back and intercept the inbound leg. Now your teardrop maneuver, it's going to be in blue, will go to the fix and fly a teardrop and come inbound. And then direct is the easiest. We'll draw that one in, what do you think? Black? Black sounds good. We're just going to go direct to the fix, or direct entry into the holding pattern, and then execute the hold like normal. So there's parallel in red, your teardrop maneuver in blue, and the direct entry in black. In general, the best thing to do is just monitor your position on your movie map or on your chart, and do the hold that makes the most sense. But we'll talk about actually how to calculate or how to do it mathematically here in a minute. Let's talk about nav equipment. Now, anytime you're using VOR, what are the steps to using VOR? Tune it, ID it, set the course you want, and then fly it, right? Just like we do when we're navigating to a point or to a VOR station. We're going to tune to the VOR station, select the correct frequency, ID it using the Morse code identifier, or whatever, if your G1000 has a little green thing that says you're tuned in, and then set the inbound course. Again, that's the inbound course to the fix. We're going to base everything off of that, and then go fly, enter the appropriate way. If you're doing a DME hold, let's pretend this is a well-drawn VOR, and they're like, hold 9 miles out from the for a 9 DME from the VOR. You do the same thing. Pick up the VOR frequency, listen to it, make sure it's active, and then go fly 9 miles out, and then start your hold. It'll be something like, hold 9 miles out, and then once you hit 9 miles out, then you go bam. You basically start the hold when your instruments say you are 9 DME from the VOR station, or from whatever station they told you to hold from. And then there's the RNAV method. That's pretty straightforward. Basically, the GPS will tell you, hey, you've hit your waypoint, and you can tell it, you can program the hold into your GPS. Honestly, if you have a GPS enabled in your aircraft, or if you have it installed in the aircraft, just use it. You should always be using multiple forms of navigation anyway. So yeah, if you have the ability, plug it into your GPS, tell it that you want to, use this as your waypoint, and execute your hold. And if you want to do left pattern, of course, or left traffic, left hold, left turns in the hold. Okay, let's talk about how do you recognize when you've arrived at the fix. Now, if you're going to a VOR, how do you recognize when you've gotten to the VOR? When the to from indicators switches. Pretty straightforward. So if you're holding at a VOR station, just watch, look at that well-drawn VOR. Just watch for that to from to switch, from to, or to from, whatever. And then you've arrived at the fix, and then you can start that turn, that 1 minute outbound, or end turn, and then start your timer for 1 minute out, or whatever distance you're trying to do. If you're using a DME from the station, let's say that 9 DME, how do you know you've arrived there? When your DME says 9 DME from, or 9 nautical miles from the station. And then you can start that turn, right? And then, yeah, again, once you hit that fix, you want to start your turn. You don't want to dawdle. Get that hold started, and then get your 1 nautical mile leg out, and then make another 1 minute turn inbound. And then this is the one we want to be exactly 1 minute, or whatever distance they want. So we adjust on the outbound leg to make the inbound leg as close to our desired time as possible. Oh yeah, this is 1 minute below. Let's talk about timing. You want to be making your inbound leg 1 minute below 14,000 feet, and then 1.5 minutes if you're above 14,000 feet. And we will adjust our wind and stuff like that on the outbound leg. If we're getting too crunched on the inbound leg, and this is too short of a leg, we'll extend the outbound leg to try to get this one to be as close to 1 minute as possible. And you should start a beam. You should start your outbound leg beam the fix. So when you make that 1 minute turn, you should be beam your point, and then start your timer 1 minute, or make any adjustments you need to on the outbound leg to hit the inbound leg at 1 minute, as close as possible to 1 minute. Yeah. If you're using DME instead of time, it's pretty much the same thing. Start your turn when you hit the fix, 1 minute out, and then instead of using time, track your DME or your GPS distance if they want them to be 5 mile legs or 4 mile legs. So some holds won't be in time. They'll be like, I want you to hold for 4 nautical miles. And you're like, man, that's going to take forever. That's fine. Actually, I saw one the other day that was 7 nautical miles. So like, that's a hold and a half, man. So 7 miles out, start a 1 minute turn, and then you have 7 miles to get back to your fix, and you've got plenty of time. Honestly, a longer hold isn't that bad. It gives you more time when you're straight and level to think about what you need to do and program your next objective, your approach. Sometimes the reason you'll go do a hold is because you've gone missed, and you're like, shoot, now I got to figure out where I'm going to go. And so it gives you extra time to figure out what your next move is. So longer legs aren't necessarily a bad thing. Just make sure you've planned for enough fuel. Let's talk about wind correction, and I'm going to change my color so you can see it. Red. Okay. Now in VFR world, right? We got wind, we're flying, we need to adjust to account for that wind and make a wind correction. What happens when you can't see outside? Well, you can use your navigational information, your GPS, your VOR, whatever you're using, and determine whether or not you need to make a wind correction. If you do need to make a wind correction, especially in a hold, recognize that when you are turning in one direction, the wind is going to have an opposite effect when you turn in the other direction. If you are inbound and you're making a wind correction, let's say 10 degrees to the right, that's fine. You hit your fix and you start a 1 minute turn. If you don't make another wind correction in the opposite direction, you'll get blown back towards the inbound leg, and you don't want that. So we have to make a 3 times, or you have to multiply your wind correction by 3 times to account for it. So here we've got a 10-degree correction. When we make our outbound turn, we'll make a 30-degree correction towards the wind. And why? Well, if we are turning back towards the fix, the wind is going to push us to go faster. Our ground speed is going to be faster when we come back towards the inbound leg. So we need to make a much larger correction on the outbound leg. Because if we didn't, the wind would push us really, really hard on our inbound turn. And then we'd have to make a crazy correction to get back in here. So on the inbound leg, we have some correction. And then on the outbound leg, multiply it by 3 because your ground speed will be greater when you are turning inbound. Wind has the opposite effects during the turns, basically. Right? Make sense? Okay. Seeing any questions? Not seeing any questions. Cool. All right. What happens when you lose your communications? Don't forget that Avenue FMEA. That's maintain your last assigned, vectored, or expected, or filed altitude, and then your last assigned, vectored, expected, or filed course, and then fly the highest of your MEA, expected, or assigned altitude. And then in a hold, if the clearance limit is a fix from which an approach begins, then you can leave as close to the expect further clearance time as possible, right? So if you are, if you're holding at the beginning of an approach, just time your turns until you're at your expect further clearance time and then start the approach. If not, you want to leave as close to the expect further clearance time as possible and then go to an initial approach fix and then start the approach. If you don't have an expect further clearance time, try to get there as close to your filed time as possible. When you file your flight plan, there's an ETA. You expect to get, to your destination at a certain time. If you lose comms, try to get to your destination as close to that ETA time as possible so that ATC can be prepared for you. Okay, so that's lost comms. Let's talk about some common errors in holds. Common errors include in the incorrect setting of your navigational equipment or failure to plan, inappropriate altitude, airspeed, or bank control. Remember, keep yourself comfortable. In a Cessna, 90 knots is probably nice and comfortable. Maintain your correct altitude and keep it to a standard rate turn anytime you're flying. Improper timing. Remember, the important one is the inbound leg. This should be 1 minute unless otherwise specified. Improper wind correction. Remember that the wind will have opposite effects on the inbound end and the outbound end. So make a 3 times or 3x correction on the outbound leg to account for wind. Failure to recognize holding passage or fixed passage. So when you hit the fix, start your turn. Don't dawdle. Right? And then failure to comply with ATC instructions. In general, follow what ATC says. All right, so that covers our holding patterns. 15 minutes, not bad. I will doodle for a little bit and wait for any questions to pop up. If I don't see any questions in the first couple minutes, then we'll call it a day. And then I'm going to switch over to Explain 11. I'll record a couple of demonstrations of holds, and then I'll try to publish them today. If not, I'll publish them this week. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a DM. Hit me up on Discord if you're the Husky Flying Club. Or check out Emerald Squadron Aviation and book a ground session with me if you'd like. In the meantime, I will doodle. Feel free to ask questions. Oh, you know what I didn't do is talk about this thing. Right, so when you're coming, I hope you're still with me. When you're coming inbound, there are 3 general directions that you can enter a hold from. If you draw your hold and you rotate this leg by 70 degrees, this angle here should be 70 degrees, and then this angle should also be 70 degrees. This right here is your teardrop sector, your parallel sector. I'm going to draw that in a different color. Your parallel sector. I'm going to draw it in, no, not green. That's bad. We'll draw it red. This is your parallel sector, and we'll keep our direct as black. And this is your direct sector. So this whole area here, if you're coming in from this section, you will go direct. If you're coming in from this sector over here, you'll go teardrop. And if you're coming from this way, you'll do parallel, right? Should have covered that earlier. My bad. I don't know why it's not included in there. Let me go back and see where I missed that. So I'm trying to perfect these. Yeah, here's where I should have drawn it. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so to recap, let's draw the fix, the fix end, come on, the outbound leg, the outbound end, close enough, and the inbound leg. And let's say the radial that we're flying on is the 160 radial. Ooh, that's a 6. That means that we're flying 340 northbound on the inbound leg. Let's subtract 70 degrees. That'll be, 270, and this will be 090 heading in this direction. So if you are flying between 089 and 270, you'll be wanting to hit direct. If you are flying from 090 to 160, you'll fly teardrop. And if you're flying from 160 in to 270 in this sector, we'll fly a parallel entry. And I'll draw those again to make it clear. So this is the tiny sector is your teardrop. Teardrop. This will be your parallel entry. And this will be your direct entry from this side. Let's go direct. Okay, sorry, I forgot to draw that. That's on me. Apologies. And we're still at 19 minutes. Cool. All right, that should cover it, and I'm still not seeing any questions. I hope everything went well. I hope you guys could hear me. Oh, I didn't realize I probably should have checked that. Yeah. Time to doodle. Having too much fun over here. Okay, well, thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you guys next week. I'm not sure what I'm covering. Let you know. I'm also thinking about doing like a 15-minute, 20-minute office hours throughout the week. If you guys are interested in that, let me know. Again, these are helpful for me because I get to practice the lesson plans and I can test out and see what works and what doesn't. And then you guys get, well, theoretically, some not so terrible training or understanding of instrument procedures and instrument flying. Once I finish this this series, we'll go back to VFR stuff. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Drive safe. Text when you get there. See ya.